Good evening and welcome to the Kuhn Academy for this installment of AP Government, where we're building responsible voters one video at a time. All right, we have special guests today to talk to you about political parties. All right, first we have Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the chairman of the Democratic National Committee.
Hi, I'm excited to be here on behalf of the Democratic National Committee.
And I'm Reince Priebus, chairman of the Republican National Committee. If you sense a little happiness in my voice, last night's election results might have something to do with it, and the same thing on the other direction with Ms. Schultz.
Yes, you were. The Republicans were much more successful in getting out the vote. So congratulations, but you know, we have 2 more years to work on this.
Okay, so first we're going to start things off with a cartoon from the recent election. So if you want to take a look at this, all right, you probably recognize the guy in the suit, and hopefully you recognize the other person being his daughter. And we have a question for you on the next slide. So here we go.
Yes, and I'd like to read the question. What presidential role is depicted in the cartoon? I've been very busy with the elections, but I did have a chance to stop down and talk to Mrs. Bonadies and Mr. Kuhn, and I understand that they did discuss the roles of the presidency. So is the answer A, Commander-in-Chief, B, Chief Diplomat, C, Head of State, D, Party Chief, or E, Chief Legislator? If you pause for a moment. And the answer is D, Party Chief. That's an informal role in the not listed in the Constitution.
Thank you, Ms. Schultz. Very good. All right. Hopefully you had a better, you probably wish you had a better Commander-in-Chief going into yesterday. All right. So one question that pops up in the AP exam from what I hear periodically is that they always ask why we have a 2-party system in the United States. All right. Because why not multi-parties? Why not one party? Why is it 2 parties? All right. So if you want to pause your video and take a guess. The correct answer is the single-member district electoral system. All right, it's a little more complicated. I'm going to let your teachers teach a little more about that later in the week. But basically, if you can only pick one, human nature means you're always going to narrow things down to the top 2. So since we only elect one person from our congressional districts, we're more likely to have a 2-party system. All right, so on every exam that they ask this, kind of complicated, but as long as you know this, you'll be in good shape.
I have another question. Which of the following describes a fundamental difference between political parties and interest groups? I understand that neither Mr. Kuhn nor Mrs. Bonadies' classes have yet covered these topics, but I also understand that both classes really successfully completed an election project, so you may be familiar with that. So pause your video for a moment, and then we'll discuss the right answer. And the correct answer is B. Political parties represent broad arrays of issues, whereas interest groups are most likely to focus on a narrow set of issues.
All right, very good, Ms. Schultz. And with more on interest groups will come in Chapter 16. We'll bring in some guest speakers for then, perhaps as well. All right, so political parties by definition, all right? And your book's probably going to have different definitions, but we want to look for some keywords in this, all right? So they're basically voluntary associations of people who seek to control government through principles based on peaceful and legal actions, all right? So a couple keywords that have to be in your definition, because there may or may not be a quiz coming on the pipeline, all right? They're voluntary. You don't have to join a political party, all right? You don't choose that, all right? Or you make that choice consciously. If you don't ever want to be one, you're an independent, and that's totally fine, all right? The most important keyword there is control government, all right? If you're a political party, you want to be in control of the government, so you're then able to enact policies that benefit you, all right? And these usually happens with peaceful and legal actions, not like the revolutions you may have studied in your world or U.S. classes, all right? Now we have, this is a little comparative note, so none of you are taking the comparative exam, but just so you kind of see where we fit into the rest of the world, we have some different types of party systems.
Okay, let's first look at party systems and compare them. In a dictatorship, there's no choice. Many times, I mean, most people don't say, I'm a dictator, I forced my way into this position. They have elections. However, in the election, you don't have a choice. So you vote for the dictator, or sometimes you could die. So that's not much of a choice. And we do have a peaceful transfer of power in the United States. We don't stage coups, and we don't kill our leaders just to put our party preference in place.
Thank you, Ms. Schultz. And I know my party was very successful at trying to paint your leader as a dictator, but we do have a two-party system, contrary to popular belief. All right, so in the two-party system, we agree on the principles of government. So we agree that there should be elections, there should be a Congress, there should be a president, and so on. We just differ on the means of execution. So one party would prefer lethal injection, while the other one would prefer the gas chamber. Just kidding. I've been hanging around your teacher too long. That's just some bad humor there. We just differ on the means of the way the government should be run and executed, all right, as you probably already figured out. And then in a multi-party system, it's usually based on region, class, ideology, and it gives voters a meaningful choice. So you will definitely have a candidate that aligns with you in a multi-party system. There may be 5 parties. So one of those is probably going to be very close to your beliefs, but they're often unstable because there's constant turnover, and a lot of times you have to have a coalition government. A coalition is when 2 or 3 parties will band together to govern collectively, and that's because nobody gets 50%, so the 2 or 3 parties have to merge together. We kind of have that now in my party, where we have the Republicans and then the Tea Party. Even though the Tea Party is not a party, it's a group of Republicans, and they kind of have a coalition going on in government that way. All right, here's Ms. Schultz with another question for you.
So look at the following question. Which of the following is an example of a multi-party system? Again, the United States, we have a two-party system. That doesn't discount that we have third parties, but the correct answer, if you want to pause, the correct answer is A, Mexico. That's why multi-party, so a lot of different interests represented, but not under too large tents, very unstable.
All right, now Ms. Schultz, we're experts on political parties because we're the heads of those, but are they in the Constitution?
No, false. They are not in the Constitution, and we should know this. As a matter of fact, right, we remember that George Washington warned against the dangers of political parties and interest groups, but parties are not in the Constitution.
And that seems to make the AP exam every year, even back when I was a student. All right, last slide for this set of the parties notes here. We want to talk about the way parties exist. All right, your book is going to refer to parties existing in 3 different ways. Okay, we have parties in the electorate. All right, so this is when you and your parents went to the polls yesterday and voted. Okay, so the parties in the electorate is how people identify themselves as voters. All right, so on the ballots it will say Democrat, Republican, Libertarian that your crazy teacher voted for. And we have parties in government. So within Congress, we have the parties that control the legislature, both House and Senate. So parties exist in government that way. And then we have parties in organization, which is the national committees that Ms. Schultz and I are in charge of, as well as the state and county organizations as well. And their job is to help get the voters out and mobilized.
And I wanted to make one quick comment. Parties in government, clearly my party, the Democratic Party, is disappointed. Now the Republicans have taken control. They're the majority party in the Senate.
Okay, and finally, the parties and organization, just to kind of give you a little flow chart here, all right? Basically, if you think of the voter down on the bottom, all right, you can see that on the notes there, they're the beginnings of the party. So every voter becomes a member of the party. The next lowest office is a precinct captain. All right, this is somebody in a neighborhood. Maybe a precinct is 3 or 4 blocks in your town. That basically serves to make people in the neighborhood aware of voting. They can answer questions for people and things like that. They kind of help make the political machine work. So precinct captain just kind of make sure the people in the neighborhood know what's going on. Then in cities, they have what are called wards. Those don't exist in Mundelein, but those are like little sections of towns that have committees that help the party run that way. Then we have city committees, which again only exist in cities. We're a village, so that doesn't really apply. From the city, we have a county. All right, you probably know the Republican county headquarters is over in Libertyville. Democrats are over in Waukegan. All right, they exist countywide. And then we have a state central committee, which would be in Springfield or Chicago, to kind of run the party organizations for those elections, and then the national committee that Ms. Schultz and I are in charge of. Okay, so it kind of flows like a pyramid. However, we'll talk in the next slide about how they don't necessarily flow top down, but this is the different levels of party and organization that exist. All right, so thank you all for listening to the Kuhn Academy, all right, where we're making responsible voters one video at a time. I'm Reince Priebus, RNC chair.
Deputy Wasserman, Schultz, thank you for having me today.
All right. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on part 2.